11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
It's the 16 days of activism of no violence against women and children. And it's sad to say that campaigns such as these don't really do much to help. I mean, we have been seeing an increase in gender based violence, we have been seeing an increase in rape violence and other violence perpetrated against women and children. How do these campaigns actually work? I hope one day we will get the answers to them. But moving forward, sexual violence is one of the types of violence that women and children, and sometimes men, also go through. Sexual violence robs children of their innocence. It takes away people's dignity. It takes away a piece of them. It's like a part of you has been stolen from someone who decided to do heinous acts on you. It robs them of their dignity and so much more. And how can families step in and assist their family members or friends who have been affected by sexual violence or rape? Joining me right now is Nazia Saloojie, who is a counselor as well as a life coach to tell us more. Assalamu alaikum, Nazia.
Walaikum assalam, and Jazakallah for having me in your space again, Maryam.
Alhamdulillah, it's always a pleasure to have you, Nazia. Now, let's start with the mental side of sexual violence. How does it affect the victim?
So, Maryam, when we talk about sexual violence, especially when it comes to children, there are different aspects, especially psychologically, where it would affect them in terms of their sleep, especially when they have nightmares. You see the child withdrawing from social activities, and they obviously have flashbacks of what would happen. Also, depression and dissociation. They would have difficulty, concentrating. And post-traumatic counseling would then need to happen because you would see that post-traumatic stress disorder and the symptoms start setting in. Also, you would see anxiety in the child, right? So psychologically, you start to see everything happen either in stages or all together. Especially when it comes to nightmares, they could have phobias develop after that, or fears, and also you will start to see in some cases thoughts of self-harm and substance abuse, depending on what age the child is. So psychologically, definitely, the child either becomes very withdrawn, or you start to see different types of, post symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder starting to develop.
Now, still speaking about children, sometimes, when the perpetrator is a family or family friend or somebody close to the family, often there is that blame game. The parent will either say, no, because it's your fault, you did this or you did that. How does that affect the child? Because now, obviously, the child will no longer have somebody they can trust, somebody they can look up to, somebody whom they can speak to, or somebody who can protect them from other perpetrators.
Mhm. So when it comes to this, the first thing we need to do is not judge. I think when it comes to a lot of the clients who have divulged that, I have been abused, the first thing the family said is, are you sure? And the victim felt as if they were not being believed, or it's not a believable thing. So the first thing we need to do is remain calm and always make the victim feel as if, we do believe you, we do take you seriously, and give them control over the situation in terms of information by asking them exactly what happened. Believing in them is so important because the fear of them coming out and speaking about it is based on, will anybody believe me? And to be available to the victim so that they're able to express their feelings at any given moment. That's very important. Whether they want to cry, whether they want to scream, they need that assurity that they do have support, and that regardless of what it is or what happened, the relationship will survive. We have seen this especially with clients who have been abused by somebody in the family or at home, where it strained other relationships, and it also has affected the reporting of it. Some of it goes unreported, and you face, the victim has to see this person at family events and live with it. And in many cases, the victim turns to other things like drugs or self-harm in order to cope, and also medication. And the family just stigmatizes this individual because they cannot believe that you would, say something like this. So as families, we really need to, have a supportive environment where the person feels comfortable enough and safe enough to speak out, and know that all other relationships will remain intact no matter the outcome of the situation.
All right, Nazia, please stay with us. We're going to take a quick break, but we will continue after.
Sure.
Aromatic and well-seasoned, spices to tantalize your taste buds. From creative cuisines to gastronomical gourmet goodies, from exotic odors to traditional dishes, Osman's Taj Mahal have remained synonymous with quality spices and condiments. Taj Mahal rice, beans and lentils. Try our range of chili bite mixes, rose and ilachi syrup, our quick and easy biryani pack, and our traditional range of spice blends. Osman's Taj Mahal, there is no substitute for quality.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education, from books to files to rulers. In fact, any any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
This is Salam Media, and you are tuned into the Maryam Mkwanda Show.
Back, you are listening to the Maryam Mkwanda Show on Salam Media. Statistics show that 40% of South African women will be raped in their lifetime. Scary statistics, and something definitely needs to be done about them. We are in the 16 days of activism of no violence against women and children, yet the violence against women and children still continue even during this campaign. I'm chatting to a life coach and Councillor Nazia Saloojie about how to offer support to victims of sexual violence. Nazia, shukran for staying with us. Now, there have been a lot of people who are coming forward to say that they have been abused some years ago. Why is this so? Why do we have an increase of people talking now?
The reason for this, I believe, Miriam, is because we have started as a society, making the environment more comfortable and also empowering victims to come forward, knowing full and well that they have the necessary support and something will and can be done about it. Also, we believe that the silence or the power of the abuser lies in the silence of the abused. The longer you stay silent, the more powerful the abuser grows. And also mentally and psychologically, in order to disarm the situation, you've got to speak
We, all right, there she is.
to do the same. I think that, just this weekend, I must add that we had a beautiful a session with Gift of the Givers out in Bramley, where 20 women from 4 shelters were brought together, and they were given a treat in the form of a spa day, which was sponsored by a place called the Beauty Hub. And for one day, they were all pampered, and they were all, they came out of that day looking and feeling refreshed. So, we as a society have started speaking out and standing united with victims of gender-based violence. And it's not just women, it's men too. And, this would be the reason why. I think the more, awareness, the more, the more we see that it's safe, you provide that environment for them to come out, the more we will see victims speaking out against gender-based violence and sexual abuse.
Now, back to the topic at hand. How can families and friends support victims?
Firstly, I also want to mention confidentiality. Families and friends cannot be discussing this in public spaces, and seek help from the relevant authorities. Speak to the professionals involved to protect the integrity of the victim. Remember, it's already difficult for them to come through and speak about it. Encourage counseling for yourself and for the victim. Because we don't always know how to handle these situations. So get counseling. Allow the proper authorities to deal with it. Don't make threats against, the person, because one thing that a victim fears is, if I tell my father, for example, that it's someone in the family, I fear for my father's safety, because the abuser, in some cases has threatened the victim to say, if you tell anybody about this, I will kill them or I will hurt you. Also, you've got to be mindful of the kind of threats psychologically that have taken place. Be patient as well, and remember that healing is a process. It has a lot of us. It has its advances and its setbacks. There'll be some good days and some bad days, but as families, we need to capacitate ourselves to provide psychosocial support for the victim, and don't make huge promises. Just say what you can guarantee, because it is a very shaky ground. The stigma of coming forward and speaking overpowers the need to speak out sometimes. So be very mindful of that. But more importantly, please maintain the confidentiality of the situation. It is not something to be discussed by everybody unless the victim is comfortable with speaking about it to who they choose to speak to, and then obviously the relationship with the professionals involved.
Now, obviously, this can be very challenging, especially when dealing with kids. So, how do we go about it? Because getting them to open up is one thing. Now, getting them to get the support, they need the support from their families and friends, especially from their families, from their people who they look at as their protectors. So, how do we go about it with kids?
With kids, it's very different, because obviously, the vulnerability, and how do you respond to it? Because how do you explain to a child that what was done to them is wrong? Firstly, you need to recognize your own feelings about the situation and contain yourself, so that you don't scare the child. And recognizing your own feelings will also mean that you let the child know that you do have different feelings towards it, but it is a safe space, and they are now, in not a stranger's environment. So after they disclose, you can. It creates a crisis. You can only imagine, a child coming out and saying, "My uncle," or "my brother-in-law," and we've been living in the same house. So it provides this kind of crisis in the home, and other relationships get jeopardized. But the first priority is the child's well-being. So if you have, you have to maintain consistent rules and structure to increase the feelings of safety. So if it's in that environment, say to the child, you know what, let's remove the child from the environment for the time being, so that, they feel more comfortable, and then give choices to the child to allow a greater sense of control. Remember, with abuse, control is taken away from the victim. So award as much control as you possibly can, even with counseling. Tell them, we will be taking you, but you choose the time, or you choose the day, or you choose your clothing. Okay. Also, allow them to have all their feelings expressed. Don't make any feeling, seem irrelevant, like crying or screaming or that. Give them the space to do so. Also, recognize their strengths and help them to see their own resilience, and listen, believe, and show support, so that it provides the environment for them to disclose everything to you. And again, do not compromise the child's integrity, by asking them, tell your auntie what happened, tell your uncle what happened. Now everyone is here, talk. Very, very important to preserve the confidentiality and integrity of the situation. Also, professionals, hand over to a counselor who is trained to handle the situation. They know, for example, to take certain toys and say to the child, show me exactly where you were touched, or show me who, or how it went about. That is always better than telling the child, point out who it is, and then the child is confronted with the abuser again and tell us what he did to you. So be mindful of that. And like we said, you as a family also need to be equipped on how to deal with the situation. Don't assume that you can handle the crisis. There's places like the Teddy Bear Clinic, there's places like the Tears Foundation. There are many places that can actually assist you.
And I saw a beautiful way of, well, it wasn't beautiful in the sense that it was something good that happened, but the kids were actually drawing out what happened to them. It was like a whole lot of letters where kids were encouraged to sort of draw what happened to them, how they were touched, and if they can write the name of the person, then they wrote down the name of the person who harmed them. That's sort of like a way of getting the kids to speak out, because they would not necessarily understand what has happened to them or what has gone through with them. Now, also with the issue on trust, obviously, trust is not an easy thing to build, especially if it has been violated or taken away. When do we allow kids to start trusting people, or rather, should we force them to trust people?
It's never a good idea to force the child. Remember, we're trying to foster an environment where we're giving them control over the situation. So we are never saying to them, I want you to trust this person. I want you, placing those expectations on them, and they feel under pressure, will only further damage them psychologically. And it will really violate their boundaries, which actually starts to present itself later on in adolescence, where they feel, I'm not in control of my life at all. So it's not ever a right time. We don't decide that. We evaluate and assess the relationship between the child and any other stranger, because we might be sending them down the abuser's way if we say you need to trust everybody. We need to proceed with caution and teach our child how to use their instincts, for example, to navigate through trust. So give them different scenarios, have conversations with them, equip them with the knowledge. Like if somebody comes to you after school and they say they're here to fetch you, do you trust that person? Do you just jump in the car? Or do you go to a teacher and tell them that the stranger has come, to fetch me and my mom hasn't informed me? All that are, all those are little blocks that build fundamentally on trust and how they learn to navigate and learn to trust or not trust someone. But there's a saying that says, love everybody, trust nobody. And I think we need to teach our children not to be too suspicious of people, but when it comes to your safety, especially, amidst all of these, child trafficking, syndicates that are operating, it's always better to proceed with caution.
And well, now we are in the festive season. Child trafficking, human trafficking, and everything is just on the increase. People are always looking to make a quick buck, so we need to be extra careful and extra vigilant, and to teach our kids the same, especially to be aware of their surroundings. And
Yes.
when will professional help be necessary? When should we bring in the professionals?
From the onset. The moment your child comes to you or you notice something different about your child, contact the teddy bear clinic, contact your closest child psychiatrist or psychologist, because it's never too late. You'd rather be safe than sorry. Miriam, also a scary thing is, just yesterday I was speaking to someone who informed me that the going rate for a child on the street these days is 10,000 Rand a head. So this is someone who actually had been, involved in the syndicate, and he had actually told me that the going rate for a child is 10,000 Rand. And when the child reaches the destination, it's $10,000 more. So if you think about it, children have become the hot new commodity. That's basically why they're being targeted. And one of the ways is that the car guard, he would act as a car guard, and he would distract the mother, for instance, taking the groceries out of the car and putting it there. And while he's distracting the mother, the other guys would come from the side and they would just get into the car and grab the child. By the time the mother realizes what's happened, he's disappeared. And he says within a space of 10 to 15 kilometers, the child changes hands with about 4 different people, and they work together in
Sure.
groups of 20. So you can just imagine, being at the forefront and actually speaking to people who are involved in this, how it has, come about, the awareness has come about, and it's a fact. It's a fact. It's happening, and parents, we can't wait for the news to tell us that this happened. It is happening, and we've got to stay vigilant. And unfortunately, to be a female, we are endangered species, and now our children as well. Femicide. Whoever thought there would be a time we would be speaking about femicide? So all of these things need to be spoken about, and we really thank Salam Media for getting our messages out there, and for assisting us to help. We're saving lives literally through this platform.
It is scary to hear that, especially being a parent, knowing that something might happen to me or my child or both of us. And, sometimes we just feel like I have to take an extra pair of hands, somebody to look out for me, to help me, to scream for me while I'm trying to chase after the people. uh, this crazy world that we live in. But hopefully, if we are aware of our surroundings, if we are vigilant and try our best to protect ourselves and our children, then we won't become another statistic. Nazia, please
Yes.
share your contact details with us once again.
My contact numbers are 082-779-5287. You can contact me via WhatsApp or drop me a message, or call me at any time. I am available.
All right. Shukran so much for your time once again. And thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Afwan, you too. Jazakallah.
Assalamu alaikum. That was Nazia Saloojie, life coach and counselor, taking us through supporting victims of sexual violence, especially during this time of 16 days of activism of no violence against women and children. And those scary statistics that Nazia has just shared, the scary story of how child trafficking is on the rise, and also how quickly this syndicate happens. 10,000 rands for a child and $10,000 once the child is overseas. This is not a joke. This is real life. We are in the real world. They've always told us that it's a concrete jungle out there, but this is not this is not a jungle. This is worse than a jungle. I don't think things like this happens in a jungle. So. Anyway, guys, if you would like to send Nazia a message on WhatsApp, she is available on 082-779-5287. And you can give her a call if you'd like assistance of any kind. She is a life coach as well as a counselor. You are listening to the Maryam Mkwanda Show on Salam Media. We will be right back.